So apparently my parents talk about a lot of heavy stuff on their podcast. Listen at your own discretion. Like, comment, subscribe, and share or whatever. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Sober as Fuck. I am Jess, this is Ryan, and before we get started, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are on all streaming platforms now. You just go to Google, Sober as Fuck, you look for the logo, hit play, that easy. Sharing is the best thing you can do because we have something for everyone, and we want this to be a space where everyone feels seen and heard. With that said, we do talk about all of the things from alcoholism, substance abuse, grief, self-harm. If you can think of it, we talk about it. So please, please, please prioritize your mental space. And if it's too much for you, then hop off because, we love you. Don't do that to yourself.
For any of my NA beer drinkers out there, if you like athletic like I do, we do have a coupon code for you at 20% at checkout. Just use the name Ryan Stew, that's RYANSTEW 20, and we'll save you 20% off your athletic order.
And if you're watching, you can also get some cool merch like what I'm wearing. So if you're like me and you're like, I will always go for a sweatshirt.
And we have merch on our website along with our podcast and resources. The website address is ournoon.com. That's our-noon.com.
So we have, I say it every time and I'm going to say it again, some really cool guests today. And I say guests, two guests. It is a couple. And they have been together for about 12 years, I think they said. And they actually met in recovery, which is really cool.
Quite a few years under their belts for sure, individually.
Yeah, like 16, 17 years. And a counseling group. And also, give it away.
The bean company is amazing. I love the name. So
Recovery Beans.
Recovery Beans. You got to check it out. That is the coolest damn name.
This is going to be a great one. We are super excited. Ryan, go ahead and welcome them on in.
And Alison.
Kolish.
It's a name you're not going to hear too often, but you got the first names right. It's A and A, Alex and Alison.
Alex and Alison, so much easier.
I tried so hard. I thought myself out of it.
Like myself. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. We're doing really good. Yeah, we're excited to be here. I'm a little nervous actually.
Yeah, me too.
I've spoken in front of like crowds of people and done, but sometimes it's just that day and you get a little nervous. So I'm putting it out there.
It's so bizarre. I do the same thing. I speak in front of people all the time, never have an issue. But whenever I get in a meeting or if I've got a speaker share or something I'm doing, it's like the first time I've ever shared a story in my life. I sweat, get nervous. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I feel you on that one. Hell, I do this every week and I get nervous. I got nervous bringing you on. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I fucked your name up from the get-go, so.
Well,
that's okay. A lot of people do.
I don't even say it when someone asks me, like, at the pharmacy or wherever, what's your last name? I just start spelling it.
I love that.
So, so I've been in recovery for about 17 years now, and, that's, sober and drug-free for 17 years. I had attempted for a number of years before that, thanks to mom and dad. They wanted me to, make a change, and, so I would go to meetings and stop at the liquor store and then, and come back home, that sort of stuff. But this run has been 17 years, and yeah, we met in recovery actually through her mom. So it's I guess I got like the thumbs up from mom. So
That's awesome. Congratulations on 17 years. That is like incredible.
I was 28 when I got sober, and now I'm 45. So
You don't look a day over 25. What are you talking about?
thank you. I'm really starting to like you now.
So yeah, I got sober at 23. It was actually my I have 15 years. So it was actually my first time in the program, knock on wood. Like I didn't know anything like about sobriety. I had like, I went through everything. There was drugs, there was alcohol, like everything is a part of my story, and I was pretty much dead. Like I was gonna be dead soon by the time I was 33. Right before I got sober, I was in the hospital getting 2 blood transfusions because I was like, anemic. I ended up like I would run out of like what I was doing at the time, whatever it was, whether it was alcohol or another substance, and I would get these moments of clarity, like like maybe I can stop for a little, and then like I get enough again, then I'd be like, oh no, I'm good. But it came to a point where like I had to stop, and I was sent to detox and then rehab, where I learned a lot about like what was driving me to drink, what was like underneath all of this. And it just kind of took off from there, and I realized that like I could really have a good life in sobriety. Like, obviously it hasn't always been easy. You, the more I feel like the more time you have, the more ups and downs there are. Like in the beginning, it's like I was on, like that pink cloud that like, oh, everything's great, for at least the first 4 months, and then
Oh yeah.
down. And yeah, when we started seeing each other, I was 3 years sober and he was 5 years sober. We went to I was from this area, but I had gotten sober in like South Florida. We're in Florida. So and I would come up to like visit my mom and stuff, and I would see him like occasionally. Like I think I met him when I was like 18 months sober or something. And then like I don't know, one day I lost my job, came up here, and we went out on a date, and like the rest is history.
Ask her about who asked who out first and what I was wearing.
No pressure or anything, but yeah, we need to hear that story.
Well, it was a Halloween party, so we were all dressed up. So he was dressed up as a woman.
And it was a recovery party.
It was a recovery party.
That's awesome.
Like, I don't know, I asked him out.
And I said, like, you mean like with other friends or just you and us? Like,
and I was like, yeah, just us.
She didn't back out right then and there and be like, yeah, do you want to hang out with me and my friends? What is this, like high school?
That's
great.
That tells you my mindset at the time. That's even at 5 years in recovery, I was still, growing up as an adult. Because up until that time, when I got sober at 28, I had basically no experience working. I had been in community college for like 6 years and with no diploma there, and just transferred to another school. I never paid my own rent, electric. I was a 28 boy. So I had a lot of growing up to do. Yeah, yeah.
It feels that way in early recovery. You do feel like you're almost going through puberty again, in a sense, like, because your mind and your nervous system and your emotions, and you're just like, I'm feeling all of these things. We talk about that all of the time on the podcast, how there's, you have that pink cloud, but then it almost feels like a little bit of a regression after that, because you're just not used to processing just normal emotions and stresses and triggers that come with life. You're used to numbing that out, even if it's not substance, right? Even if it's, eating disorders or any sort of extreme behavior. We ended up not being able to do it, but I remember when he was coming up on his 1 year, I almost threw him like a first birthday party with, like, honestly, like I was going to buy him like an adult, like bib, and get the smash cake and make it like Batman themed and everything. And, a sliver of that was honesty, because you feel like this like newborn, and
Basically rebirth.
it can be overstimulating. Like I know that it's hard to process a lot of those. You're used to numbing out. So, in whatever order you prefer, I would love to hear each of your recovery stories, like really what led to that, and then the details about how y'all met. I know Halloween party, all of that, but like, how did it go after the first date, sort of deal?
Um,
Uh-oh.
so I'll go into like just some of my personal story a little bit more, and then we'll dovetail into
Perfect.
the the couple stuff. So I like I kind of alluded to, like other people wanted me to get sober way before I wanted to get sober. I had lived I heard this somewhere and it stuck with me, is that you put me inside any type of system and I could probably beat it and work it and manipulate it, but I can't beat the symptoms. So I was this like fake college student. I was like, I had a few jobs before I was 28. One of them was working at a detox, and part of that was, and I knew nothing about recovery, but I'm manipulative enough to like get my foot in the door and become a shift supervisor while I'm using on the job, and the reason I got that job is because my parents wanted me to do two things. They wanted me to go to meetings, 12-step meetings, and they wanted me to get a job. And I was like, I'll kill this bird with this two birds with one stone. But inside my soul is rusting, right? Like I'm getting away with it, I guess, but like I'm getting older and opportunities. Like you can only say you're a college student, like at community college for so long before people are like, wait, why don't you have like a degree? You should have a doctorate by now. Why don't you have like an AA, like, associate's degree? Like, so I was, and I was always like seeking like what's wrong with me, whether it was like, maybe I need to find the right combination of alcohol, or right combination of, if I drink this drink and then take this substance, maybe that'll like, help me lurch along and like be comfortable in my own skin again. Because at the end, like, I wasn't comfortable unless I was in a blackout, like, because like and I didn't really have buzzes anymore, so when I was in a blackout, I was comfortable. I didn't get buzzes. I would wake up, sick or uncomfortable. I would have nightmares when I dreamed. So really the only relief was when I was in a blackout. And like, you can't, I don't care how much you drink, you can only sustain a blackout for so long. You can't do it 24 hours a day. I mean, you could try, I tried, but like, after, and there's like 5 years of my life that I don't remember much. Like my mom and I used to joke about it. She'd be like, oh, remember that funeral we went to or that trip? Like, no, that was during that period of time, and again, like I can get away with that, but like inside something was rusting. And let me back out for a second and I'll let you before I take the mic and run.
He will. I think part of the reason like I asked him to go first sometimes is I have a really heavy story and I sometimes I don't even like remember all of it. I grew up in a very like abusive household from 14, well, especially from 14 years old on, which I think was a big reason for my use and my drinking, because like the only way, I mean, in the beginning I coped other ways. I had an eating disorder. I would immerse myself in like TV shows, like fictional worlds, like places where like I didn't have to live in reality. And then when I started dating my first boyfriend when I was 16, which was like another thing I could immerse myself in, like a person, he introduced me to drugs and alcohol, and I kind of took off from there because like I finally found the solution where I didn't have to like live in this reality. So I went downhill really fast because it was like 16 to 23. It progressed very fast. Of course, there was also a lot of drug abuse in my household. There was a time where the man who was abusing me was dealing cocaine out of the house. There was a lot of commotion. There were robberies, people robbing our house. There were people I was around that I shouldn't have been around. And I was also very dependent on my mom, and like I was kind of still like a child, I was still like that 14-year-old child. And there was no, I had no idea how I could escape. So I mean, at one point I overdosed. I didn't even realize it was an overdose at the time. But what really like got me out was when I would get those moments of clarity, like I was talking about before. And then I went to like detox, and from there they sent me to rehab, and like I was finally on my own, and I was finally understanding what had happened to me, because like I really was so like, because of how I had grown up, I was really so like naive in a way of what had happened, that like I didn't know until I had a therapist literally like sit me down and say, hey, like this is what was going on. This was not normal, like, because it was normal to me. So I think like I was really, even though I started using and drinking at 16, like I was still really like that 14-year-old when I got sober. Like, I mean, I guess, yeah. And like I said, I had used other things before then, like other things. And so, but so I really like did like, I mean, we were talking about like how to learn to be an adult in sobriety, and to learn like how to deal with my emotions without like trying to cover them up some way.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And all stories are powerful, and we've had all different guests on our podcast. Just to kind of relate, my brother is 5.5 years sober, and he was in active addiction for 20 years. And it was, he jokes about it now, but they're like, what were your substances? He's like, yes, D, all of the above. Yes. Like, what is it? Yes. You asked. Yes, that's what it is. And when he got sober, he was literally like almost living under a bridge, homeless, hadn't eaten in a week. And, we were at the point where we were preparing more for a funeral than for recovery. And so I tell people, I'm like, there is not much that I have not seen or heard. And we came from a good childhood. We did not have drugs and alcohol in our house. And we have everyone share those stories because there is this stigma, right? Like, even in society nowadays, and this is not to knock on anything, but like with money or privilege, you can like microdose, and it's like cool, and go on these like retreats and be like, oh, whatever. But if you come from a troubled background, or you have an abusive background and you're using, then it's like trashy, right? And at the end of the day, it is all the same thing. It's just like with alcohol. It doesn't matter if it's PBR or a $1,200 bottle of wine. It's all battery acid that's going to kill you. And so breaking down those stigmas, and breaking down, like, it does not discriminate. Addiction, mental health, it does not discriminate. And for some people, the odds are stacked against you in the beginning. So for you to have come from such an abusive background, and to be able to get sober, especially at 23, like I was so fucking stupid at 23. Are you kidding? Like that's incredible. That's really incredible, Allison. And we have a tendency to really minimize our stories because we either don't feel worthy, or we feel like, oh gosh, but it's powerful. And I really appreciate you for sharing that. I appreciate yours too, Alex, but I'm having a little I'm having a little woman moment here.
I'm gonna go check the mail. I'll be back.
It's just, it's hard. It's hard to, I mean, doing this is essentially like standing up naked in front of a crowd of people and being like, look at every single imperfection and scar that I have, and expecting them to still love you afterwards. And that's really scary. My mom came from a very, very, very abusive background, and she struggled a lot with mental health and addiction, and she was a cycle breaker. So I have a sweet spot, for people who do that. So that's incredible. And so I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that. I know it's really hard to talk about that, but that's awesome. And you're sober and you're healthy now, and that's all that matters, right? Um, so I'll ask you both, and Alex, we'll go back to you too, because I know you wanted to open the floor for Allison, but for each of you, like, did you have a rock bottom moment? Was there an epiphany moment? I know normally, like, there's something that happens, and like you said, Alex, something's wrong, but it's usually years it takes you to actually get there where you're like, I'm fucking done. So did you have a moment? Like, what snapped? What was different that made you go, I'm not doing this anymore?
Told you I had those moments where like I would like run out a little bit, and I would have those and then I went to the hospital, not to be graphic, but I was like throwing up blood. I went to the hospital, got those blood transfusions, and I remember I got home and I had this dream that I still remember, and I was swimming, and there was like a hole in the ground, and I went deeper and deeper, and it got darker and darker and darker, and there was like this shadow, and it was like one of my addictions. Like I knew it was like one of my addictions, the shape of the shadow, and it was like the scariest thing I ever saw. And I swam up back to the hole like faster and faster and faster and higher and higher and higher, and then I got above the water, and like I could breathe, and I woke up, and I remember that dream, and I'll never forget that dream. And the next day I went to detox.
Wow. How powerful is that? Okay, Alex, what about you?
So, I had gotten Baker acted, which down here in Florida is like when you want to kill somebody and kill yourself, and you're a danger to society. So I gotten Baker acted, and I went to 90 days of residential substance abuse treatment, and we had to do like daily 12-step meetings, get a sponsor, do therapy, and I did really well there in the structure, and I want to say I was with it, but I had this lurking notion that if I just got enough like trauma therapy, if I just talked enough about like did emotional growth, that like maybe I could drink on New Year's. Like I'll bargain, like I'll take that bargain, like maybe I can just drink if I'm out of the country, and like go somewhere, and like. So I still had that lurking like notion. And so after 90 days of residential treatment, I was in outpatient treatment and living in a halfway house. And like, I don't even know, I say a week later, it might've been less, it might've been more. I am the guy living in the halfway house, like, snorting pills off of the, off the bathroom sink, lying to group and all that stuff. And, I eventually got caught, and I manipulated my way to staying in that sober living house, still using for another month. And they finally kindly asked me to leave because I was nothing but a nuisance. And that day I had a lot of like options, right? My dad said, son, I'm not paying for any more treatment. You can get yourself Baker acted again and you can get some help. I didn't really want that option. Somebody told me I should go to the Salvation Army. I could have probably gotten back into treatment. I didn't want any of that. I still wanted to like use and drink. So I looked up my buddy that had been living off and on in the woods and staying high. And so I was like, oh, I'll try that out. I want a sponsor of a different kind. I want a sponsor that's going to show me how to use and show me the ropes. And so we proceeded to panhandle at our local grocery store that I had been like shopping at as a customer for like the last like 15 years, but we're panhandling out there. And we got enough money to like do some things and went out to the woods. And this is in Florida, and it's July, and it's like hot. The mosquitoes are the size of bats, it's just like, and I'm not in oblivion. My buddy is, he doesn't even know my name, and like, it's not working. I've consumed just as much or more than he has, and like, I'm not getting to that blackout that I talked about before. And that night, something like shifted. There was like this stream of thoughts that like the end is coming and there's never going to be enough. The end could have looked like, detox, Baker Act, treatment, getting sober, suicide, like all those were like options. And even the sober one wasn't attractive. None of them were attractive, but it was almost like, it was just like the thing was going to land on one of them. I knew it was going to land on one of them soon, and then that other thought of like, it's never enough. It's never going to be enough of alcohol. Even if I have an ocean of alcohol, it's never going to be enough of pills. Even if I have a pill mill, it's never going to be enough money, whether I have a money machine, blah, blah, all those things aren't going to be enough because it's like an inside problem. And that night wasn't the last night I drank or used, but it was like a week or two afterwards was when the end came, and I tried to stay sober by playing video games, and that was miserable. So I had to like find some community, in 12-step recovery, and tried to bring my buddy from the woods to the meetings. Now, you don't have to look into a crystal ball to know that didn't work out, but somehow I stayed, around. So, but yeah, it took all that for like something to like click inside, that all that stuff that I had heard in rehab and in the meeting rooms was maybe could apply to me.
Yeah.
So definitely just a bit, obviously with both of you, it's really a mindset change that you had to go through to realize, okay, this shit isn't working anymore. I got to try something, else completely.
You almost have to kill yourself. I mean, I know that sounds extreme, but like for some people, I mean, my brother was like that. He was like, I got to the point where I would just take so much just to even see if I would wake up tomorrow. I was just curious. Like I wasn't even scared of death. And it sounds like, Alex, you were the same way. And my brother's highly intelligent. So like all of those meetings and stuff, they didn't work for him either. And he would always manipulate his way out of it and talk his way out of it and play the part. And yeah, like it was the same. He's like, whatever happens, happens. Like, I mean, if I would say, you don't want to die, do you? And he's like, I mean, there's worse, like there are worse things than not waking up tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, or just so deep in it that you think, well, I mean, I've hurt so many people and I've done so many things that like maybe that's the better alternative. And that's when it gets really dark. But luckily, neither of you did that, and you're here, right?
Well,
and you chose to live.
I thought you could change, because I'd like been around, people and seen them come in busted up, bruised, all that stuff, and then get better, right? Like I'd seen that, so I thought I knew people could change. I just didn't think I could change.
You could,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I believe that people can make progress and all, but not me. Not me. I'm unique. I'm horrible. I'm the scum of the earth. All that stuff.
And then you go to a meeting and they're like, ha ha ha, hold my drink, pun intended. Wait till you hear this. But that's I mean, I hate to say beautiful thing, but it is you feel so isolated, right? You feel like, yeah, but their story is different. And that's part of, you don't realize it at the time, but that's part of that like victim mentality. Yeah, but for me. Yeah, but for me. And then you hear these stories and you meet these people and it's like, no. There are literally millions of people who feel that exact same way, who feel hopeless. Like, I can't get sober. I mean, Ryan, you're very open about there right before you got sober, having a lot of like self-harm and very, very dark thoughts, just with alcohol, because his was never drugs, it was alcohol. Just thinking, I can't live like this anymore. I mean, it destroys you on the inside.
Yeah. And just like you said, Alex, once you get into the community, see the community, how they're living, and you realize you're not that one-off. Again, that mindset change, it's completely different. You realize, yeah, I can live this life. I can be on the other side of this. It takes a hell of a lot for you to get that mindset shift change. It's huge. And I commend both of you. A lot of people that we've had on the podcast, and I'm one of them, I abused myself for 30 years. So, people have done this, you did this in your 20s, and Allison, you in your early 20s. I mean, how commendable is that to have that mindset, again, I keep bringing this up, to really change your life at that young of an age when everybody else is, partying, doing stuff, and whether, whatever limits they have is completely different than what you are. Because I'm sure you guys were the same as me. I mean, there was no limit. The limit was one is too many and the thousand's never enough. You kept going and going until you blacked out.
And the mental gymnastics, like with both of you, like, and I hear this with you too, like the mental gymnastics that you do trying to convince yourself that you can hold space for all of this bullshit. You're like, well, if I do this and I go here and I go out into the woods, or like I date this guy, or I do this or do that. I mean, when you finally do find recovery, you're like, man, I did not realize how exhausting that was, and how I was just like, your whole life revolved around just thinking about how you can make it okay. And we tell people, like, if you're trying to search for an article or a doctor or a program or a friend or whatever, like, you have to actively search for why it's okay to do something, then it's probably not okay to do it. Okay. That's probably your first trigger. So then you both get sober. And I know that you said that you guys met through her mom, but like, I want to hear, like, was it in meetings? Like, I want to hear the love connection, like the eyes met and you knew.
So the first time I believe she saw me, I was chairing a meeting and I was wearing this fabulous plaid shirt that she loved so much.
It was really ugly, and I never forgot it because it was so ugly.
Oh God, that's great.
And she wasn't attracted to me at that point.
He was a nice guy. My mom goes, "Oh, you should. He's really nice. You should date him casually." I don't know.
As opposed to dating him like very seriously.
But she would come up to visit.
I would come up to visit, and we started. We started like having more conversations, like taking care of ourselves more.
Right.
At one point, I think it was 2012. I came up and we had like this like great conversation about A Course in Miracles or something, because we were both like into A Course in Miracles. So like we kind of communicated. We also were like friends on like Facebook, and when we play like draw something together.
Yeah, back in the day.
Like draw something on the phone, like so like we were like connected, but not like, and then
and I'm glad that we didn't connect at first, because like for me, like I mentioned earlier, like I had a lot of growing up to do in all areas of my life, and one, like being a partner, being a man, being like somebody in a relationship, because before I got sober, my girlfriend was alcohol and drugs. Like, I was so self-absorbed and lacked self-esteem and all that stuff. Like I tunneled in on my sole purpose, and at that time my sole purpose was to blot my mind out. So I had to grow up sometimes ungracefully, like dating in recovery, and I had to make a lot of mistakes that people are making in their teens and early 20s, and and the way I approach that is like, I know I'm going to like make mistakes, but if I like try to follow the principles of like people in recovery, that that the damage will be turned into growth, right? And I just kind of had to throw a little bit of gasoline on the fire, just to like, because I was in many ways making up for lost developmental time, and her version of that is like very different. Like,
I had most of my experience like before
Yeah.
I got sober, like, and I decided in early sobriety that I wasn't going to date, so I didn't decide that I was like ready until I was like 2.5 years sober or something to date. So I really like took time to like focus on myself and like make sure I had like a solid foundation in sobriety, because I didn't want like to start dating and then for like that person to like take over, so at 2.5 years sober, I started like getting on the apps and like all that stuff, and nothing like really clicked, and and then I lost my job unexpectedly, and went down for the Halloween party, and yeah.
It was the dress. It was the dress.
What was the dress?
between the shirt and the dress. I think it's funny that you're like, oh my gosh, I do not think that you're cute, and that shirt is fucking hideous, and yet you're the one who asked him out. That's amazing.
And I'll tell you what I love about the story, Allison, is you said you basically, it's almost you
I
had to
can't
date.
hear you that well.
Oh, sorry. It's
Yeah.
almost like you had to date yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you did that. You learned to love yourself again, and you worked your own program, which I think's great. I mean, I don't know how you guys are now. Do you, are you guys like accountability partners kind of together, or do you still kind of work your own separate programs?
So, I don't know exactly how to answer that.
I mean, we have our own separate programs.
But
I
we
feel-
do accountability stuff together too.
Yeah, I
Like,
think that's great. No, I do, because I think it's great you do your own thing, and again, it's because you put in the time, but before you started dating, which I think is phenomenal. The reason I say it's because I've heard the stories of people dating in recovery, and it seems like they really try to rely on each other instead of working their own program, and I think we all know how that can work out, or if you've seen that happen before. So that's a really, really cool story. I like that.
That's a good thing to talk about people listening too, because yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a great question, especially when you're getting sober together, because you do have to keep kind of a good boundary, right? Because nobody can be everything to another person. So, yeah, how do you find that balance where it's like, yeah, we're walking this journey together, but at the same time, I don't ever want to feel like I'm infringing upon that space, or you know what I mean? Because you have moments in recovery where, like, no matter what you do, that day's just not going to be a good day, right? And you know it, and you have to pivot. So, how have you found that balance in your relationship?
and also as long as we've been sober and together, sometimes you'll have years that like a year that's not your year. Like we've had periodically where like maybe for an extended period of time, like from a big circumstance, a life circumstance, right? I've had like a tough year, and then there's been other times where she's had a tough year, so it's not even these like short things. It expands. But
Well, we've always kind of had that boundary though. Like even if it was like unspoken at times, that we don't rely on each other for everything. That we have our own support system outside of each other, and we've like kept that. Now we do talk to each other like about the issues, but we're not like the only thing for each other. We have our own therapists, we have our own sponsors, we have our own like support system, like in the 12-step programs that we like attend. And I think it's like really important, especially when you're going through, you just can't rely on someone for everything. And like he's a therapist too, like if he ever tried to like be therapist to me, I would know, so
You'd be like, oh no.
so like
oh,
does he like
no.
he must be so understanding, like he's a therapist, but like I mean he's a person and a partner too, like he's a therapist to his clients, not to
Yeah.
me.
You don't need him to be your therapist.
Yeah.
You need him to be your partner. No, I totally get that, because we get a lot of questions too. And we met when we were both very broken, and like met and got married and had a kid within months and latched onto each other. And then we're married for 13 years before getting sober. So we went through this whole like, what if we don't like each other? Like in sobriety, like what if we get sober and don't like each other? And that didn't happen. But also a big part of that too is allowing each other that autonomy, right? Like you cannot be each other's accountability partner, sponsor, therapist. You're too emotionally involved. You live together. You see each other every day. You have a business together, which we're going to get to that next. And you're just trying to hold yourself accountable, right? And that's what your sponsor, that's what your accountability people are for. They care about you, they're emotionally involved, but they're not so tethered to you that they can still kind of be very honest without worrying. As partners, we always worry, and we have to learn how to not project that onto each other, even in like just not recovery related, right? And we see a lot of couples where this sounds terrible, but like they rely on each other too much. Like I love that Ryan has his own group, and there are things that he talks to them about, and times he reaches out to them that he doesn't talk to me about, and he doesn't confide in me. And it has nothing to do with me. I can't give him what he needs in those moments. I can't be that system or those people for him in those moments. And I'm so grateful for those people in those communities that can. So I think a lot of couples feel very isolated, or like, oh, you don't trust me, you can't talk to me. It has nothing to do with that. You know, when my brother first got sober, he didn't want us to come visit him for the first year because he's like, I have to focus 100% on me. And if you're here, I cannot do that because you're my sister. And there's guilt and there's regret and there's all these things. So I love that you guys have that, especially going into it. You know, that's like great.
And speaking of partnership, you guys have a partnership as a business. I can't wait
Yes.
to hear about and how you got into that, how that's looking now. So give us the lowdown on the recovery beans.
So we started Recovery Bean, which is our coffee company, about a year ago. So in 2023, I started my counseling LLC. I'd worked at a residential substance abuse treatment center for 10 years and started my own little, like, single therapist practice. And I learned just enough about business to be dangerous. I learned how to like file for an LLC, and during the pandemic, I'd gotten like, you mentioned like healthy, or you mentioned like obsessions other than alcohol. Well, I get locked into stuff. So during the pandemic, I got locked into coffee. And when I say I got locked into coffee, I don't mean like trying different Starbucks roasts. Like I bought multiple espresso machines and grinders, and then got into roasting, when I drank alcohol, I would like research like the barrels that whiskey was like, put in. That's the type of person I am. Like when I get into something, I want to like go deep, and so I got that way in coffee. And I wanted to start another business that wasn't like consulting for a therapist or lecturing, or that was just something totally different. And somehow, I don't know how, but we like got onto like, well, why don't we like do something like within the recovery mental health space when it comes to coffee? Because we drink a shit ton of coffee as recovering people, and nobody's really like speaking to us. And then there can be like a charity aspect to it, and and it just like it fits with like who we are as people, the recovery piece. And when I talk about coffee, sometimes Allison's eyes will glaze over. Why is that, Allison?
I love coffee. Don't get me wrong. And like the only coffee I drink now is like our coffee because it like settles. It's the best for my stomach. But I am not into coffee like he is. I'm more into the recovery side of this business and the mental health and like that
I
part
just
of
want to
it.
wake up and have a normal cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, some Folgers and some milk in a cup and call it a day.
I can't tell you how long you need to roast beans for, or or why this tasting note is better. I can't tell you any of that. I can tell you, I like our coffee. It tastes good, and I like the mission behind it.
Let us know about the mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the mission is really like we decided to, even though it's a small little business, we decided to give back 10% of profits to help fight addiction and mental illness. And part of that is we set this up so that it's not like high stress. I did not want a storefront because I don't want to deal with that stress. I want it to be like somewhat of a hobby, fun, enjoyable, and not be like, hey, you gotta buy this bag of coffee. Please buy this bag of coffee. I gotta pay my rent. No, it's not like that, So this is something that, now that we have it up and running, we're able to give back. And we also give away a lot of coffee, because we can, and it's fun. It's about making community and connection, and it's a great way to spread like, hey, you don't have to be alone. And our coffee lines are like all kind of like nods and hints to recovery. Like our decaf is called White Chip,
Love that.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
a smoking meeting.
Yeah, smoking meeting is our darkest, roast, coping skills. So, and at the end, when you get to fancier coffee, it's just like wine where you have like tasty notes, and ours will have like the typical like tasty notes, chocolate, whatever. But then always at the end, there's like usually like a little riff on recovery. So smoking meeting, like its last tasty note is old timers.
Love that.
So like
That's awesome.
yeah, like we have one that's called nuts, not using the steps, and the last tasty note is despair. So we it's a lot of fun. It is, and that's part of the mission too, is like there's a lot of organizations that move towards mental health and addiction, but it's like really heavy, and like we want to laugh at ourselves, like, right, when we were working on like what do we want this, like the brand and the message to be, like one of the things that came up was like self-irreverent, like just a little like kind of like not take everything so darn seriously. So
Yeah. Because
yeah.
recovery space is heavy, right? You're talking about a lot of heavy things, like people almost dying and, abuse,
People dying.
assault,
People
right?
dying. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And especially with being a therapist, I can imagine you're just like, I need a little bit of comic relief. Like I have to laugh at myself. That's awesome. So before we wrap up with our favorite question and segment of the podcast, tell us where people can like purchase your coffee. How can I find you? How can I get some coffee? How can I order?
So funny enough, like recovery beans, like coffee beans, recovery beans was not like taken. So we're recoverybeans.com, on Venmo, we're recovery beans. Nothing, no 1, 2, 3, no hashtag, like it's just, so you can find us anywhere. If you Google recovery beans coffee, you're gonna find us.
We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, TikTok. All that.
Yeah. And if you're in Tampa, we're in a couple, retail locations that we've partnered with too. So.
And you'll ship anywhere in the U.S. What about
and Canada?
We've got a big following in Canada, so that's a great thing to know for all my listeners.
I'm sitting here going, how can we collab and create our own like special edition sober as fuck like coffee?
We could definitely work on that. Yeah, we can definitely work on
Seriously. And we're working on linking a lot of stuff on our website because we have people who have tons of authors and people who sell, and we want to be able, our site is a landing spot to really connect. So we would love to link your coffee on our website eventually so people can go and order and do all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have to go deep into this, but I have my counseling company, Conscious Path Counseling, LLC.com. And then Allison is working on a little project.
I'm in a band, and I have been for several years. We had a baby last year, so I had to take a little break. We're working on recording our first album. Yeah, our
Oh my gosh. Freaking kids. They put a wrench in everything. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's really not much of a following on Instagram. We really haven't posted on there in a while, but it's called Underground Surrender. So, the band name.
Wow. That's awesome. We should have led with that.
And I also have another side project, like Sober Mama Life, that I'm doing, and I'm going to start a website soon. I have an Instagram with, like, a bunch of followers, and
Hey, I have connected with a ton of sober moms who really try to break down that whole mommy wine culture and are really badass women. And a bunch of them have been on the podcast. So I would love to connect you with some people. I'm all about it. We're best friends now, Allison. Like, I grew up doing performing arts. It's not something I do as an adult, but like, I love it. Singing is my favorite thing. I'm a mom. Yeah. We're married now.
I'm going to go check the mail again.
That's right. So, speaking of laughing at ourselves, Ryan.
Yeah, so you got to give us, each of you, or unless one has both of you in it.
Well, no, they were in recovery.
Yeah.
we didn't know each other, but
Drinking story, I forgot about that. Thank you. And if it involves someone peeing, it's even better.
You want me to go first?
you go first.
So my what's coming to mind is when I was 18, so it's about 10 years before I got sober, right? We some of my buddies and I went to Jamaica for a spring break, and it was a myriad of it was just catastrophe after catastrophe. We missed our connecting flight in Miami. When we got to Jamaica, we didn't actually make plans. We just like got plane tickets and no hotel, and it's during spring break, mind you. So we ended up staying like somewhere on the island that was like in the middle of nowhere, and we're in our full-blown addiction. I'll speak for myself. I'm in my full-blown addiction. My buddy's on probation, probably isn't even supposed to be leaving the county. Yeah, you know, and then my other buddy is just like along for the ride. And one day, we were supposed to go to the next morning. We were supposed to go to the Appleton Rum Distillery. And if you're a full-blown alcoholic, there ain't nothing better than a distillery in another country. And like, take me there. I'm not missing that for anything. Well, the alcohol was hitting right the night before. We got so drunk and blasted that we couldn't get up the next day to go to the rum distillery. Our drinking was getting in the way of our drinking.
Oh, man.
It took me another 10 years to stop, though.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. My drinking was getting in the way of my drinking. Wow. That's great. I love that. All right, Allison, tag, you're it.
Which actually this just came to me because I was trying to think of something. I have a lot of like not like funny stories. A lot of them are like pretty bad. So I was just thinking about, I think it was the second. So I had a friend in high school who introduced us to shrooms.
Oh, wow.
And I decided, so it was, I did it once with her, but then a second time I went over to her house and I brought my best friend with me. And every time my best friend at the time, every time he went on a trip, it was a bad trip. Every single time. Okay, so they made shroom tea this time and we drank more than you probably should, especially when you're not used to doing hallucinogenics. And I just remember like bits and pieces. I remember running, I don't know, I remember it's like weird things, running across the house, going one part of the house we were older, the other part we were younger, and running back, going older, younger, older, younger. At one point he chased me around with a cat. He chased me around with a cat, and I was like completely terrified of him. I ended up with like a scratch on me. He's talking about how he's pregnant with Minnie Mouse. I don't even know. And then my mom ended up having to come pick us up, and she had to keep us on completely opposite sides of the house because I was like terrified of him after he chased me with that cat. So yeah, that was.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. That's pretty good. I have some funny stories about eating mushrooms, but nothing like that. That's pretty good. I love the whole, like, you're older on one side of the house than the other. You're like,
Sounds
oh
like
my
you want
God, I'm a
microdosing.
time traveler.
Too much tea.
No microdosing that day. That was macrodosing.
Macro dosing. Oh man, that's great. That's great.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It was great. It was great to get to know you guys a lot better and know about the business and businesses and the band and everything. I mean, it's awesome. You guys are dabbling in so much stuff. It's so cool, and I can't wait to see how it all comes about.
And thank you for sharing your stories and being so honest and real. And the great part about it is anybody listening to this episode, I mean, you're really helping people. You're saving lives, and that's what it's about, because we're all in this together, so it's great. Thanks, Alex and Alison.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
And hit that notification bell to get
Boom.
notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby.